Never before had she experienced the pleasure of being anonymous in a city which left her completely alone.
That it breathes life into the ageless life.
Scarman's heave is snared by Felton. The Terrapins, so called, are striking for a quick tally. Felton romps 38 yards to put his...
Stretch its Ozo, Oscar R.L. and Quick Song. That thrilled the world.
General Eisenhower humbly
But I thought it sounded more like Eddie than it did me.
On the 7th of January 1955, Marilyn and Milton officially launched Marilyn Monroe Productions. They celebrated the event with 80 hand-picked guests. Their joy was complete. From that day on, they would shoot films over which they had complete control, from beginning to end, and together would make profits far superior to the salaries paid by 20th Century Fox. Or so they thought. The producers over on the West Coast had been caught off their guard and were quick to capitulate. They agreed to co-produce all the projects of the new company, of which Marilyn, with 51% of the capital, was president.
I consider myself becoming an artist, so you excuse me, some people will laugh. I would like very much to be a fine actress, a true actress, that's what I mean by fine, a real actress.
Marilyn, New Yorker and undefeated, the boss of her own company. Could it be because it doesn't seem to fit with the legend that today everyone has forgotten this episode? Marilyn's huge blown-up picture was splashed all over New York in the most famous scene of her career, her skirt tantalizingly lifted by a giant fan. Cars and passers-by stopped in their tracks.
Oh, I think it's terrific. Well, it's pretty vulgar, if you ask me. Very nice, some girl. I think it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
I think it's very nice, but I'd rather it's me.
It's a funny feeling, she admitted. Everyone knows me and I don't know any of them. The best way for me to prove myself as a human being is to prove myself as an actress. Winter drew to a close. Marilyn discovered the New York spring, which aroused a childlike wonder in her. She experienced the same at this charity gala in Madison Square Gardens. As a child, I never went to the circus, she explained. The audience watched her lovingly as she paraded on an elephant. 1,000 voices whispered, "Be careful." But was she really taken in by all the affection displayed under the big top? "These people are so emotional," she said. "If they love you so much without knowing you, couldn't they just as easily hate you?"
I get up in the morning about 8:30.
With the Greens, Marilyn discovered a life totally different from the one she'd known in Hollywood. A life with structure in a well-organized household. She held onto a small bedroom at their place, but now also had her own suite in a palatial New York hotel.
The New York Times. I'll get dressed in a skirt and a shirt and some flat shoes.
Each time Marilyn enjoyed moments of happiness like this, she remembered little Norma Jean, her real name, and how she'd been abandoned in the orphanage by her mother. "It's not Marilyn who's basking in all this," she said at the time. "It's Norma Jean, and I want Norma Jean to be at the party." Whenever she was criticized for giving herself airs, for example, or for making sensational entrances, she replied that it was Norma's fault, that it was Norma who wanted to be noticed, not her. In the mirror, it was Norma that Marilyn saw.
To learn that she was my mother was quite a shock.
Because I think I have a gay side to me, also a sad side. And I think that's the way with people also.
Photographs of her in New York at that time show her looking wiser, relaxed, and not trying overly hard to seduce the camera. In front of Milton's camera, Marilyn came across as serene. In reality, she was often tense, nervous, and unable to sleep. During this time, she was pursuing something else dear to her heart, psychoanalysis. She had begun while she was still married to DiMaggio, having 6 months of consultations. In New York, she started going to see Dr. Margaret Hohenberg 3, 4, even 5 times a week. Milton Green didn't only recommend this imposing Hungarian immigrant with the plaited white hair, he accompanied Marilyn to her office. Margaret Hohenberg had been his psychoanalyst for several years. To Amy, Marilyn simply said, "I like talking to her." But soon there would be someone else in Marilyn's life she liked talking to, Arthur Miller. At the time, she kept him a secret because he was married, but she was already sufficiently in love to suspect that he might be her next husband.
I like to dress when I go out in the evening.
In the meantime, New York hustled and bustled all around her. Now and then, Marilyn would talk to the press.
I'll have to do some interviews.
Marilyn sometimes went to premieres, the flashbulbs and cameras reminding her of her time in Hollywood. Milton Green, protective and discreet, hardly ever left her side. And after the show, like a symbol of her newfound independence, there was jazz. Marilyn loved jazz and the freedom it represented. One day, hearing that Ella Fitzgerald would not be able to sing in a fashionable nightclub because she was black, Marilyn phoned the owner and promised she would reserve a front row table every night if he'd go back on his decision. And each night that Ella sang, Marilyn kept her promise. At night, when Marilyn the insomniac was not posing for Milton, she read poetry. "There's a book by Rainer Maria Rilke, Letters to a Young Poet, which has helped me a lot," she said one day. "Without that, I might at times believe I'm going mad."
I like Rilke, especially more than his poetry, a book